I've been asked multiple times by people, whether it be on a stream or the comments of a YouTube video, what my favorite Zelda game is. I find this question very difficult to respond to, as my answer always ends up changing. Each game has those one or two aspects which make it stand out. You have Skyward Sword with its story, the pacing and gameplay of Ocarina of Time, and Breath of the Wild's open world and freedom to play however you want. Currently, my top 3 Zelda titles are of the following: Wind Waker HD, Majora's Mask, and A Link Between Worlds. I've made videos on the first 2, so why not talk about the 3DS game? I've never been able to pinpoint exactly why I love this game so much. Perhaps it's the wall gimmick introduced, which is both incredibly fun and never feels forced. Or the game's story, which in my opinion has one of the best endings in the series. And while the dungeons are quick and easy, it's always a blast to replay them. A Link Between Worlds plot is simple. It tells us of a world parallel to Hyrule's. Much like their counterpart, Lorule's Triforce was sought out by many, resulting in many wars. Instead of sealing it away, their solution was to destroy the Triforce, and put an end to the cycle of conflict. In hindsight, this decision proved to be fatal. Without a Triforce, the world of Lorule slowly crumbled away. At the time of Princess Hilda's rule, a crack had formed within the Sacred Realm connecting to Hyrule. Hilda could sense the presence of a Triforce and devised a scheme with Yuga to steal it. The magician traveled to Hyrule and captured the 7 sages to break Ganon's seal and claim the Triforce of Power. He lured the hero to Lorule so that he would free each sage, claim the Triforce of Courage, and confront the two at Lorule Castle, with the intent of taking the hero's piece. After Yuga's betrayal and defeat, Hilda makes amends by sending Link and Zelda back to their own world with the now restored Triforce. As Lorule crumbles away, Ravio and the princess watch as their Triforce is restored, thanks to the wishes of Link and Zelda. It's a very bittersweet story with a satisfying ending. However, when you take a closer look at the game's characters and the overall message of the game, there's more to it than meets the eye. Kick back and relax as HMK and I delve into the story of the foolish princess and the hero without courage. Lorule is, in every way, a parallel world. It has its own Triforce, its own Sacred Realm, and residents which are the counterparts of ones living in Hyrule. It's a kingdom born from a what-if scenario. What if the royal family chose to destroy the Triforce instead of sealing it in the Imprisoning War?
The Kingdom of Lorule is the equivalent of A Link to the Past's Dark World. With that being said, they aren't the same place. While the former has its own Sacred Realm and the Triforce, the Dark World from A Link to the Past was that land's Sacred Realm, transformed into a world of evil once Ganon laid his hands on the Triforce. Lorule is parallel to Hyrule, while the Dark World is a reflection of Ganon's evil heart. With that being said, why did the Sacred Realm take the form of a mirrored Hyrule? If the Sacred Realm serves as a mirror to reflect the heart of any who enter it and claim the Triforce for their own, the best analogy to use comes from Persona 5. Once an individual's distorted desires are strong enough, it creates a region within the metaverse called a palace. The metaverse is a reality shaped by the collective unconscious, with palaces being home to those with distorted desires. For example, a teacher who abuses his students sees himself as the king, with the school being his castle. Therefore, his palace exists in the proximity of the school, and its reality is altered to resemble a castle. In Ganon's case, the very reason the Sacred Realm is transformed into a dark mirror of Hyrule was because in his heart, he saw himself as the ruler of everything. The Sacred Realm projected this reflection, and thus the Dark World was born. On the other hand, Lorule has always existed alongside Hyrule, as its history also had an imprisoning war. Their paths diverged once the ancestors destroyed the Triforce, with the kingdom slowly crumbling away. Lorule is quite similar to Termina, as it too has counterparts of characters found in Hyrule, such as Romani to Malon and Lulu to Ruto. There's even a scrapped version of what we can assume to be Termina's counterpart of Ganondorf, who is implied to have appeared in the swamp and ocean fishing hole. In fact, some have suggested that Lorule is Termina, though it's more likely that the game is making references to Majora's Mask. The entries to Ravio's diary count down from 3 days left to 2 to 1, a possible nod towards the 3-day system in Majora's Mask, and the mask itself is mounted on the wall in Link's house. More importantly, within Thieves Town is a group of cult members wearing masks. hoping to become monsters themselves to be saved from corruption.
The ramifications of destroying Lorule's Triforce are seen in the present. The world lacks a Master Sword, which was most likely lost throughout history. If we are to assume Lorule existed alongside Hyrule, it would have been made long before the Imprisoning War, at the time of Skyward Sword. With the absence of a Triforce, there was no need for a hero to wield the blade. The closest thing to a Master Sword is the Master Ore, only appearing within Lorule and used to upgrade the Hyrulean Master Sword. Some have even speculated that Demise and his demons originated from Lorule, as his sword has an upside-down Triforce on what may be the Lorulean version of the Master Sword. That would make Girahim the counterpart to Fi, however, the timeline of events contradict this idea. In addition, all characters from the former have a counterpart existing within Lorule, with the exception of the Seven Sages. With no Triforce, a group assigned to protect the sacred relic wouldn't be needed. A Link Between Worlds shows us just how important the Triforce is. It maintains the very balance of the world. Lorule's destruction wasn't imminent, but a slow deterioration. It's never explained why a crack had formed within the kingdom's sacred realm. It's possible that, once the world was close to death, it latched onto Hyrule's Triforce as a last-minute attempt to save itself. Both Yuga and Hilda could sense the presence of a Triforce beyond the fissure. As long as both worlds were connected, Lorule would not crumble. This explanation adds up with what we see in the game. The cracks from Hyrule and Lorule have particles leaking out from the opposing world. In fact, once Hilda uses the last of the bracelet's magic to send Link and Zelda home, it shatters and the fissure from the sacred realm stops glowing. The connection between the worlds is lost, and not long after does Lorule begin to crumble.
What stands out in this story are the characters of Ravio, Hilda, and Yuga. As expected, these three are the counterparts of Link, Zelda, and Ganon, not only in appearance and role, but also their actions. The Zelda series has consistently told us of the stories which a warrior with the soul of the hero and a princess holding the blood of the goddess work together to strike down evil. When Ganondorf laid his hands on the Triforce, he was only able to claim the piece of power, as it is the virtue that he most believed in. The Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom sought out the bodies of those chosen by fate, one who amassed a great amount of courage, and the other who valued knowledge. The Hero of Time and Princess Zelda. Without the two, evil would reign over the land of Hyrule. Both Ravio and Hilda act in complete contrast to this mindset. Lorule's hero knew Yuga was using her to get the Triforce, and didn't have the courage to stand up to them. He viewed himself as a coward, and in Hilda's desperation to save her kingdom, she willingly chose the doom of another by stealing their Triforce. Her judgment was clouded, allowing herself to be manipulated by Yuga, who described her as deluded. She was a fool to trust him. If Lorule is meant to be a world parallel to Hyrule's, with an inverted Triforce, are the virtues of that relic different to the ones of power, courage, and wisdom? Is this a Triforce of weakness, cowardice, and foolishness? At first glance, it seems plausible. However, this isn't taking into account another factor: Yuga. Yuga certainly isn't a weak character. He's proven to have exceptional skill in magic, similar to Ganon, and a Triforce based on virtues such as these doesn't sound that likely.
Lorule's Triforce is still built upon the virtues of power, courage, and wisdom. The actions of those bound to the pieces could have been tied to its destruction. Without the virtues of courage and wisdom, Ravio and Hilda were led astray, symbolic for the loss of the Triforce. This is where things begin to make sense. A Link Between Worlds is all about characters who realize their potential through weakness. While Ravio lacked the courage to stand up to Princess Hilda, he helped the hero behind the scenes through the rental of tools along with giving him the bracelet used to escape the wall. His overall design references back to A Link to the Past. When one enters the Dark World, the form taken is a reflection of what's inside the heart and mind. In Link's case, he transforms into a helpless rabbit. Up until the ending, Ravio is dressed in a rabbit outfit. It's this moment where he gathers the courage to step in between Hilda and Zelda. What Ravio doesn't realize until later is that courage came from his cowardice. His role in the story was vital in thwarting Yuga's plan. Despite the risk of never seeing the princess again, and that it could be a one-way trip, he chooses to travel to Hyrule in search of a hero. His growth as a character comes to a close once he finally confronts Hilda. Even with the defeat of Yuga, her judgment remained clouded until the intervention of Ravio. Only then does she realize her mistake in creating the very thing her ancestors wanted to avoid. Hilda's growth as a character comes from this moment, where she chooses to restore Hyrule's Triforce at the cost of her kingdom crumbling. Even if Lorule were to survive, the guilt of destroying another kingdom would stay with her and taint Lorule's history. True courage doesn't come from being fearless, it's doing something despite your fear. And only a fool hates to be corrected, but a wise person appreciates it.
A Link Between Worlds further pushes the narrative of how virtues of power, courage, and wisdom are earned, not taken. Hilda's plan to steal Hyrule's Triforce was destined to fail. It's only when both the princess and hero display true wisdom and courage the Triforce is restored. At face value, this game's premise and story is quite simple. However, like most other Zelda titles, there is much more to the plot than meets the eye. That's why there are so many content creators discussing the lore and symbolism of the games, which have been around for years. Even today, people are still talking about Ocarina of Time and many other titles. But that's half the fun. The other part of it is hearing your thoughts and topics brought up in these videos. Do you agree or disagree with our thoughts on A Link Between Worlds story and characters? Let us know in the comment section. And if you want more Zelda content, there's a collab with me and NintendoBlackCrisis over on my channel where we talk about the Zonai and how they may be the true record keepers of Hyrule. A link to that will be in the end card.
And of course, special thanks to my patrons. If you too want to become one, then feel free to check out the link to my Patreon down below, but never feel obligated to do so. I frequently post on Twitter, so a link to that and our Discord will be down in the description. I've been NintendoBlackCrisis, signing off, and I'll see you all next time.